accept love, cause I'm having with love. That's keeping her from love, maybe an ex-lover, or could be a father. I don't know, all I can tell how she relates to me. But I would give all of my heart if she would just believe. She don't know love, I love you. She don't know love is right here. Oh, she don't know love, I love you. Love is far away from the pain that I see in her eyes. But all of that will change when she's mine.
Good morning. Good morning, YouTube. Good morning. Good morning, universe. How y'all doing today? Today is June 10th. Is it the 10th? Today is June 10th. Hey, y'all. Oh, I am done. Well, kind of, sort of. School ended yesterday, y'all. Yay! It was a very rough year, but it was amazing. I learned so much this year. Eagles, good morning. How are you? I haven't seen you in forever, but I'm not here. So there's that part. Good morning. How are you? Oh, let me take this banner off, y'all. One thing, when you don't come live very often, you be forgetting all the extra things. How y'all doing today? Anyway, I'm going to do chapter 6 today from our book from Eckhart, A New Earth. It's not a very long chapter. Oh, excuse me. I'm always hitting this mic. Let's see if I can figure out. Put it there. Anyway. Hold on. And hold on. Let me see. I'm good over there. And I'm good over there. And of course, my allergies always do what they do. Very good. I'm glad to hear it. Okay, so I was going to tell y'all first real quick. So if you have been watching my channel at all, you know that I got a promotion this past year, and I am an administrator now in a K-12 setting. And yeah, it was very interesting here. It was good. I learned a lot. There were some challenges because human beings are going to human being, and working with the adults primarily to help the children is a very different experience than just working directly with the kids, right? Like, I am trying to help the grown-ups so that the grown-ups can better help all of the kids. And yeah, it was interesting. So, technically my summer vacation doesn't start until sometime next week, but I'm working summer school. So yeah, it is what it is. I'm a workaholic to a certain degree. And I will be here probably more often during the summer, but still not every day because I'm still working this summer. But it is my birthday weekend. My birthday is on Monday. So I will be here today. I might be here tomorrow. I don't know. And I definitely won't be here Monday because why? It's my birthday. But yes, I'll be turning 51 on Monday. I'm excited. God willing, I'll be turning 51. And yeah, oh, and Sunday, my son is graduating from high school. So it is that I probably won't be here tomorrow. That's what I thought about. Tomorrow, I won't necessarily be here. Tomorrow is graduation, and then Monday is my birthday. So it's just a very exciting time right now. And it's summertime and it's Gemini season, and all of my energy is all over the place. All right, so I am going to get into chapter 6, which is breaking free. The beginning of freedom from the pain body lies first of all in the realization that you have a pain body. Then, more important, in your ability to stay present enough, alert enough to notice the pain body in yourself as a heavy influx of negative emotion when it becomes active. When it is recognized, it can no longer pretend to be you and live and renew itself through you. Thank you, egos. Thank you. This pain body thing that he's talking about, I think I'm going through like understanding mine a little bit more. Some of the terms that a lot of the relationship gurus use on YouTube is the masculinity, femininity thing. I think for some women, because I can only speak for myself, our pain body is centered around understanding when we're operating in our masculinity and when we're operating in our femininity. And for some women, I'm only talking about myself. So for me, I feel like a lot of my life I've operated in masculinity because I was raised by a single mother. I have a father. My daddy is my heart. However, not but, however, unknowingly, somewhere between my father figure and my brother being my father figure, I looked and attracted men very much like them. And it didn't allow me to operate in femininity because I had never seen it displayed. And so at my big age of now 50, I think what I am experiencing in this new, I think it's a relationship, is learning to be vulnerable. And most people will say learning to operate in femininity. And that's very difficult for somebody who protects themselves, which is what I do. My protection comes from shutting down. When things don't go the way that I want them to, I stop talking. I stop communicating, and I move on and I do other things. And so, what I'm learning now is to communicate. And that's hard, right? Like it's hard to put yourself and your feelings and your femininity and your vulnerability on the line, because what you're doing is putting your pain body out to say, what is happening right here with us, what we're talking about, what we're doing feels this way to me, and I don't like it. And it exposes that pain body, and that pain body is not allowed to then take over your thoughts, to take over your emotions, to take over who you are. It forces the pain body out. And I'll be honest, it feels good. It's scary though. It is very scary to be vulnerable and to put that pain body out into the light of day and to say, you know what? I don't like this feeling. I don't like what's happening. What's going on? We need to communicate and to be able to accept whatever comes from that, because it can end the relationship. It can end the situationship. It can end whatever it is if the other person is not willing and open to accept what you're saying, and and to take accountability for whatever you are communicating with them. All right. It is your conscious presence that breaks the identification with the pain body. When you don't identify with it, the pain body can no longer control your thinking and so cannot renew itself anymore by feeding on your thoughts. So that's, again, that vulnerability, that femininity and or that masculinity, putting that stuff out and putting it on the line and being willing to be vulnerable, as difficult as that is, it is so necessary. It is so important to your presence, to your being, the human being, the being part of your experience. That is really important if you really are practicing this mindfulness, this being. And it's hard too, though. Like, that is really challenging. It is your conscious presence that breaks the identification with the pain body. When you don't identify with it, the pain body can no longer control your thinking and so cannot renew itself anymore by feeding on your thoughts. The pain body, in most cases, does not dissolve immediately. But once you have severed the link between it and your thinking, I am an overthinker. I am. The pain body begins to lose energy. It just happened to me. I had to be very vulnerable with what I was going through emotionally. Just a little bit about this experience. I have recently re-engaged with somebody that I've known like over 20 years. And part of our relationship was when I couldn't take the heat of the emotional, I don't even know what to call it, like in order to be vulnerable, I would stop. I would run. He calls me a runner. I would run. I'm really good at running. I'm really good at shutting down, not talking, and moving on with life. I am very, the way I explain it is like, I have the ability to go hard in the paint both ways. I can be all in or I can be all the way out. I have a very OCD-ish addictive type personality. When I go in, I go in. Like, that is my thing. I'm going to master this. I'm going to do this. And when I get frustrated, flustered, or it's not in my favor, I'm done. Next. And so right now, having to circle back to a 20-year relationship and kind of pick up and not do those things that I did in my 20s and 30s and like be a grown woman and stand in your emotional shit. Whew. It's not easy. It is very, very, very challenging. And again, the other person can just be like, girl, you too deep right now. I might be like, okay, I can take that. But if I don't tell you what's happening right now, I'm going to run. I'm going to shut off and I won't communicate anymore. And I'm trying to be more mature. I'm trying to be vulnerable. And as they say on YouTube, I'm trying to work and live in my feminine energy. And for people, for women who haven't always learned to modulate that masculine, feminine energy, it's hard. But I feel like I'm growing as a human. I feel like I'm growing. Your thinking ceases to be clouded by emotion. Your present perceptions are no longer distorted by the past. The energy that was trapped in the pain body then changes its vibrational frequency and is transmuted into presence. In this way, the pain body becomes fuel for consciousness. This is why many of the wisest, most enlightened men and women on our planet once had a heavy pain body. Ego says it's a rough process, but you can endure it and come out as one. It is rough, but it's part of our consciousness, right? And I think a lot of us, I'm not even going to put a color on it, just human beings, we don't get taught how to navigate our emotional intelligence. We get taught, men get taught to suck it up and don't cry. You know, you shouldn't have those types of feelings. Women, a lot of women, some women are taught to be manipulative with their energy and not just be honest and open about it. Society puts value on what we look like, but not what we feel and not our emotion. So having to learn to operate from your emotional intelligence and to be vulnerable, it's just not something that's valued in our society. But we get told as women we should be more, we should be soft. What does that mean if that's not something you've been taught? And should being soft and vulnerable mean that a man gets to tell you, you need to be this big, you need to be smart, but you don't need to open your mouth in public, you don't need to have a voice? Like, that is manipulation on the internet. There are these gurus that tell you all of these things that you should and shouldn't do, but they don't give you necessarily the tools and the real life world experiences to do those things. It just sounds good. It just makes you feel good. But the feel good part of your human beingness doesn't grow you. It is your emotional capacity. It is your emotional ability to move through this universe, to move through this space, and to grow yourself, which helps you grow other human beings, including your children, because you can't give them emotional intelligence if you don't have it. And so these cycles that we continue to see in our families, abuse, neglect, what relations should or shouldn't look like, we're not changing the future for our future generations because we don't know how. We can only be who we actually are right now. We can only lead from where we are. And if we're not conscious about the things that we're doing and teaching and saying, we are just repeating cycles, and the world just keeps spinning, and generations just keep doing the same thing over and over and over without growth. Regardless of what you say or do or what face you show to the world, your mental, emotional state cannot be concealed. Your mental, emotional state cannot be concealed. And so that's what I used to do. When I couldn't deal with my emotions, when I knew I was feeling something that was very overwhelming for me, and I knew the other person didn't have those same feelings or emotions, I just packed up my bags and left. I took my emotions, put them in a bag, and moved on. And so I think the universe put me back into this old situationship. I don't know if it's, now, forever, or not. Whatever it is, there is still something that I'm supposed to learn from this situation that I ran away from. There is something there that I still need. There's unfinished business, I guess is the best way to say it. And until I grow through that unfinished business and either close that door or figure out, like, what is this? Why did this door even still swing back open? Because I had no idea that I still had an attachment to this man. I had no idea. He knew. I didn't know, though. He's known for a long time. I think some men kind of know that about some women that they've dealt with or interacted with. I didn't know. I didn't know. But when we reconnected, it was just like time went back 20 years, and it was like, how do we end up back here like this? And it's the weirdest experience as far as energy that I've ever had to unpack. I have never had to sit in this type of shit before, ever in my life. So I am going through a growth spurt at my big age, emotionally, not physically. Every human being emanates an energy field in the energy. Every human being emanates an energy field that corresponds to his or her inner state. And most people can sense it, although they may feel someone else's energy emanation only subliminally. That is to say, they don't know that they sense it yet. It determines to a large extent how they feel about and react to that person. Some people are most clearly aware of it when they first meet someone, even before any words are exchanged. A little later, however, words take over the relationship, and with words come the roles that most people play. Attention then moves to the realm of mind, and the ability to sense the other person's energy field becomes greatly diminished. Nevertheless, it is still felt on an unconscious level. When you realize that pain bodies unconsciously seek more pain, that is to say, that they want something bad to happen, you will understand that many traffic accidents are caused by drivers whose pain bodies are active at the time. When two drivers with active pain bodies arrive at an intersection at the same time, the likelihood of an accident is many times greater than under normal circumstances. Unconsciously, they both want the accident to happen. The role of pain bodies in traffic accidents is most obvious in the phenomenon called road rage, when drivers become physically violent often over a trivial matter such as someone in front of them driving too slowly. Many acts of violence are committed by normal people who temporarily turn into maniacs. All over the world at court proceedings, you hear the defense lawyers say, "This is totally out of character." And the accused, "I don't know what came over me." To my knowledge, so far, no defense lawyer has said to the judge, "Although the day may not be far off, this is a case of diminished responsibility. My client's pain body was activated, and he did not know what he was doing. In fact, he didn't do it. His pain body did." Now, that would be deep to hear in court. Does this mean that people are not responsible for what they do when possessed by the pain body? My answer is, how can they be? How can you be responsible when you are unconscious, when you don't know what you are doing? However, in the greater scheme of things, human beings are meant to evolve into conscious beings. And those who don't will suffer the consequences of their unconsciousness. They are out of alignment with the evolutionary impulse of the universe. So, what I'm hearing is that part of this journey that we are all on, it includes whether you are actively or unactively aware, an evolution or a maturing of your consciousness. You are not here just to live unconsciously. Part of your experience is to mature and to evolve and to grow into a conscious human being. And even that is only relatively true. From a higher perspective, it is not possible to be out of alignment with the evolution of the universe. And even human unconsciousness and the suffering it generates is part of that evolution. When you can't stand the endless cycle of suffering anymore, you begin to awaken. So the pain body, too, has its necessary place in the larger picture. presence. A woman in her 30s came to see me. As she greeted me, I could sense the pain behind her polite and superficial smile. She started telling me her story, and within 1 second, her smile changed into a grimace of pain. Then she began to sob uncontrollably. She said she felt lonely and unfulfilled. There was much anger and sadness. As a child, she had been abused by a physically violent father. I saw quickly that her pain was not caused by her present life circumstances, but by an extraordinarily heavy pain body. Her pain body had become the filter through which she viewed her life situation. She was not yet able to see the link between the emotional pain and her thoughts being completely identified with both. She could not yet see that she was feeding the pain body with her thoughts. In other words, she lived with the burden of a deeply unhappy self. At some level, however, she must have realized that her pain originated within herself, that she was a burden to herself. She was ready to awaken, and this is why she had come. One of the things that I just it's not a new experience, it's a re-experience with my friend, is that I love him. I've always loved him. I knew he didn't love me though, right? He cares for me. He enjoys my company, but love in the sense of I want to be with you, like you are it for me. I knew he wasn't there. And that is another reason that I ran from him, because I was young. I didn't have children at the time. And I wanted to have a life. And I knew I couldn't have a life with him. He already had kids. He had been married before. Like he just, he was just out here living, and he's older than me. So I was like, I want to be married one day. I want to have children. And I knew he didn't want any, like, I knew he didn't want any of those things. And I was like, I'm not about to be here hanging out with you, and just be stuck. Like, I want to have a life. And so now that I feel like the universe was just like, okay, you've had a life, you've had a marriage, you've had 2 kids. Your youngest is now 18, graduating. And guess what? Now I'm put you back with him. I feel like this is like the universe is undefeated on so many levels. So now I'm going to put you back where you started. Now what you going to do? So like retelling him that, yeah, I love you. Like that doesn't go away. That doesn't change. And like feeling okay. Like I feel freer than I did for like the month and a half before I said those words out my mouth to him. Like, you know what? I'm not going to carry this emotion with me. I'm going to put this right out here in the universe, because it's more kind of like a fart. It's more space out in this universe than it is holding this inside of me. So let me just get this energy up off me. And I do feel better. I felt so much freer. I felt so much lighter when I said it. And I didn't say it for him to say it back to me. I said it because I'm not about to hide my feelings no more. I'm not about to act like this doesn't exist in me. It's here. It is what it is. We done went back in time. We done reignited this flame. I'm always Googling, trying to educate myself. Like, what is this energy? I found something called, because I'm like, I don't believe in all that. My soulmate, child plow. I'm past all of that in this part of life. So I found something called this twin flame. And it talks about like your twin flame being like this magnet that exists and that will always exist. And this twin flame energy is so strong that it could be a month, it could be a week, it could be years, it could be decades. And at some point, y'all gonna circle back to each other. You guys are gonna be reattached, redrawn to each other, because that is your twin flame. And I really honestly believe that this man that's been in my life over 20 years is that energy. I unconsciously didn't know it though. It allowed me, by being unconscious to it, once I ran away from him, It allowed me to have children. It allowed me to get married. It allowed me to get divorced. It allowed me to just be alone and single and date a few people in the meantime and in between time, until one day in April 2023, he reached out to me and he was like, when we hanging out? And I was like, I don't know, I guess whenever you ask me to hang out. And child, why did I go? Like now, part of me is like, girl, you shouldn't have went out with him. Because the universe needed me to go back and clean up some unfinished emotional business. So here we are, cleaning up emotional business. I didn't ever know that that existed. Like, you got to go back and clean up an emotional mess that I left 20 years ago. Yes, girl, you do. Yes. The universe says yes. Go back and clean up your emotional baggage that you've carried your entire adult life with this man. So here we are, and we're doing the work. I'll let y'all know how it ends. But right now we're still in the thick of it. Okay, I forgot where I was at. I'm gonna start over, child. Because I don't know where I'm at. When I start talking, I lose my space. And I usually will put my finger somewhere. And I don't know. So I'm gonna start over with presence. And I'm not gonna talk this time. A woman in her 30s came to see me. As she greeted me, I could sense the pain behind her polite and superficial smile. She started telling me her story, and within 1 second, her smile changed into a grimace of pain. Then she began to sob uncontrollably. She said she felt lonely and unfulfilled. There was much anger and sadness. As a child, she had been abused by a physically violent father. I saw quickly that her pain was not caused by her present life circumstances, but by an extraordinarily heavy pain body. Her pain body had become the filter through which she viewed her life situation. She was not yet able to see the link between the emotional pain and her thoughts, being completely identified with both. She could not yet see that she was feeding the pain body with her thoughts. In other words, she lived with the burden of a deeply unhappy self. At some level, however, she must have realized that her pain originated within herself and that she was a burden to herself. She was ready to awaken, and this is why she had come. I directed the focus of her attention to what she was feeling inside her body and asked her to sense the emotion directly instead of through the filter of her unhappy thoughts, her unhappy story. She said she had come expecting me to show her the way out of her unhappiness, not into it. I'll say this: you have to go through the emotions. You have to go through the pain. You have to unpack that shit. And it's not nice. It's not easy. And it hurts. What? You got to hurt yourself? Yes. How do you grow if it's easy? How do you get a diamond? How do you get gold? Those things have to go through fire. Those things have to go through pain. They have to be chipped away. They have to be molded. It's the same with you. You have to be molded. You have to grow. You have to be rooted in pushing through the pain, not avoiding it, which is what I've done my entire life. I avoid. I am really good at it. It is a gift that I have that my mother gave me. I know exactly, I see clearly now things that I never saw before. My mother's ability to shut down and block is damaging her today in her older age. She can't remember things. She's done such a good job of blocking out so much pain that she's experienced in her life, in her childhood. She can't remember it. And so now that she's older, some of those memories, I believe, they're there. They're not going away Just like I still love this man from over 20 years ago and I ran away from it and didn't deal with it, that emotion is still there. Girl, it ain't going nowhere. So now, the universe said, I'm going to set you right back here. Now what you going to do? And because of the work that I've been doing on myself over these past 2 to 3 years with my emotional maturity, I gotta sit in it. I can't run from it no more. And one of the things that we promised to do this time is to communicate. And it's not easy for either one of us. Like saying the things out loud, child, I don't want to say this to you, but I promised that I would. And whatever happens because I say it, it's okay. I'm okay with that. That is my emotional maturity. And it's hard, y'all. Listen, it's the most challenging thing I think I've ever experienced in my life is to sit in it, to stand in it, and to own it. Can you imagine loving somebody and it's just you? And you be like, okay, 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 y'all, it's hard. And he's not running from it. He's like, okay, I hear you. I care about you. And then he'd be like, I'm not looking for a relationship where this, and I'm old and I'm setting my ways. I don't got nothing to do with that. That's your stuff to deal with. I'm dealing with me. And I'm okay with, I don't need anything. I don't need validation from him. I don't need anything from him other than let me unpack this shit. Because obviously I've been carrying it and didn't even know I was carrying this weight. I had no idea, y'all. Like this experience is the most vulnerable experience. And I've been married. I've never been this vulnerable with anybody in my life. Ever. 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 Not even my husband has gotten this type of, I'm just going to put it out there from me. Nobody. My kids, I ain't gonna, but that's a different relationship. My kids are the only ones, honestly. But this right here, woo, I'm like, oh, I'm a grown up. I'm a for real grown up now. Finally, you finally grew up, girl. I'm still working on it. I'm still a big kid, but I'm working on it. Reluctantly, however, she did what I asked her to do. Tears were rolling down her face. Her whole body was shaking. At this moment, this is what you feel, I said. There is nothing you can do about the fact that at this moment, this is what you feel. Now, instead of wanting this moment to be different from the way it is, which adds more pain to the pain that is already there, is it possible for you to completely accept that this is what you feel right now? That's that vulnerability. That's that femininity. And even men have femininity in them that they're told that they're not supposed to tap into. There is a balance that is needed by all of us. We have mother and father in us, right? Operating and understanding both, not just the masculinity and the femininity individually, understanding both, that as a woman, I have both. As a man, you have both. And navigating both of those energies is a requirement to maturity, to emotional maturity. She was quiet for a moment. Suddenly, she looked impatient, as if she was about to get up, and said angrily, "No, I don't want to accept this." That's what I did. When I told him I loved him, he said, "What did you say?" I said, "Nothing." And we left each other. And I got home and I was like, Keisha, you're running. Stop it. Okay. Stop it. And I reached out to him and I communicated. You know what? I said what I said. And I meant it. I loved you then and I love you now. And instantly, y'all, like literally, instantly, it was like, I was free. I was free. I wasn't lying anymore. I wasn't pushing my emotions down. I was being vulnerable and I didn't have to carry the weight anymore. I honestly feel like, okay, now that you know, we back at square one. I'm out of it. Like I am removing myself from this energy. I put it out there. Now you know. And I'm gonna own it. I'm gonna stand in it. I'm gonna own it. And it is gonna be what it's gonna be. And if it's gonna be nothing, it can be nothing. And if it's gonna be something, it should be something. But here we are. She was quiet for a moment. Suddenly, she looked impatient, as if she was about to get up, and said angrily, "No, I don't want to accept this." "Who is speaking?" I asked her. "You or the unhappiness in you?" When I told him no, or I didn't say anything, that was my unhappiness saying, he's going to hurt you if you tell him you love him. He's not going to reciprocate if you tell him you love him. That's who was speaking when I said, I didn't say anything. When I got home and found my emotional courage and intelligence and my beingness and was able to say, I said what I said and I meant it. That was me talking. That was my consciousness winning in that moment. Can you see that your unhappiness about being unhappy is just another layer of unhappiness? She became quiet again. I am not asking you to do anything. All I'm asking is that you find out whatever it is possible for you to allow those feelings to be there. In other words, and this may sound strange, if you don't mind being unhappy, what happens to the unhappiness? Don't you want to find out? She looked puzzled briefly, and after a minute or so of sitting silently, I suddenly noticed a significant shift in her energy field. She said, "This is weird. I'm still unhappy, but now there is a space around it. It seems to matter less." This was the first time I heard somebody put it like that. There is space around my unhappiness. That space, of course, comes when there is inner acceptance of whatever you are experiencing in the present moment. Space was created around me saying and sharing that I still loved him. It didn't allow me to be sad or shut down or run anymore. It allowed me to say, it is what it is. I am that I am. And I said what I said. And I meant it. I didn't say much else, allowing her to be with the experience. Later, she came to understand that the moment she stopped identifying with the feeling, the old painful emotion that lived in her, the moment she put her attention on it directly without trying to resist it, it could no longer control her thinking and so become mixed up with a mentally constructed story called The Unhappy Me. Another dimension had come into her life that transcended her personal past, the dimension of presence. Since you cannot be unhappy without an unhappy story, this was the end of her unhappiness. It was also the beginning of the end of her pain body. Emotion in itself is not unhappiness. Only emotion plus an unhappy story is unhappiness. When our session came to an end, it was fulfilling to know that I had just witnessed the arising of presence in another human being. The very reason for our existence in human form is to bring that dimension of consciousness into this world. I had also witnessed a diminishment of the pain body, not through fighting it, but through bringing the light of consciousness to it. A few minutes after my visitor left, a friend arrived to drop something off. As soon as she came into the room, she said, "What happened here? The energy feels heavy and murky. It almost makes me feel sick. You need to open the windows, burn some incense." I explained that I had just witnessed a major release in someone with a very dense pain body, and that what she felt must be some of the energy that was released during our session. My friend, however, didn't want to stay and listen. She wanted to get away as soon as possible. I opened the windows and went out to have dinner at a small Indian restaurant nearby. What happened there was a clear further confirmation of what I already knew, that on some level, all seemingly individual human pain bodies are connected. Although the form this particular confirmation took did come as a shock, the return of the pain body. I sat down at a table and ordered a meal. There were a few other guests. At a nearby table, there was a middle aged man in a wheelchair who was just finishing his meal. He glanced at me once, briefly, but intensely. A few minutes passed. Suddenly, he became restless, agitated. His body began twitching. The waiter came to take his plate. The man started arguing with him. The food was no good. It was dreadful. "Then, why did you eat it?" asked the waiter, and that really set him off. He started shouting, became abusive. Vile words were coming out of his mouth. Intense, violent hatred filled the room. One could feel that energy entering the cells of one's body, looking for something to latch on to. Now he was shouting at the other guests too, but for some strange reason, ignoring me completely as I sat in intense presence. I suspected that the universal human pain body had come back to tell me, "You thought you defeated me. Look, I'm still here." I also considered the possibility that the released energy field left behind after our session followed me to the restaurant and attached itself to the one person in whom it found a compatible vibrational frequency, that is to say, a heavy pain body. The manager opened the door. "Just leave, just leave." The man zoomed out in his electric wheelchair, leaving everyone stunned. 1 minute later, he returned. His pain body wasn't finished yet. It needed more. He pushed open the door with his wheelchair, shouting obscenities. A waitress tried to stop him from coming in. He put his chair and fast forward and pinned her against the wall. Other guests jumped up and tried to pull him away, shouting, screaming, pandemonium. A little later, a policeman arrived. The man became quiet. He was asked to leave and not return. The waitress, fortunately, was not hurt, except for bruises on her legs. When it was all over, the manager came to my table and asked me, half joking, but perhaps feeling intuitively that there was some connection, "Did you cause all of this?" Mind you, this is Eckhart, so you know Eckhart is sitting there chilling in perfect peace. "Did you cause all of this?" It reminds me of a colleague at work. Lives in their pain body, lives there. I've known this from the first day that I started working with them. Their pain body is literally present everywhere they go. And they try to use their pain body manipulatively at work. And I refuse. And so I've learned to protect my energy. And this person believes inherently that they're allowed to lead with their pain body, and also that if I choose to deflect their pain body and shut myself down and protect my peace, that I owe them my energy, my good vibes. Do not let energy vampires zap your good vibe energy. There are energy vampires that exists in the universe. All they know is pain. They lead with pain. Pain allows them to feel good, like this man in this wheelchair, hurting other people, causing a scene, being manipulative. You're going to sit there and eat the whole meal and then decide, I don't like it. Being manipulative in whatever way that looks like, showing up and letting that pain energy control, and then expecting others to feed into it or for you to grasp onto their positive energy. You don't owe anybody that, especially at work. Especially at work. I don't owe you my good vibes. It is a gift that I give. But when my good vibes are met with pain bodies that I know, and I know you are avoiding being honest and authentic with me, yes, I'm going to control my good vibes with you because you're an energy vampire and you're fake. I don't do fake. It's not good for me. The pain body in children. Children's pain bodies sometimes manifest as moodiness or withdrawal. The child becomes sullen, refuses to interact, and may sit in a corner, hugging a doll or sucking a thumb. They can also manifest as weeping fits or temper tantrums. The child screams, may throw him or herself on the floor, or become destructive. Thwarted, wanting can easily trigger the pain body, and in a developing ego, the force of wanting can be intense. Parents may watch helplessly in incomprehension and disbelief as their little angel becomes transformed within a few seconds into a little monster. Where does all that unhappiness come from? They wonder. To a greater or lesser extent, it is the child's share of the collective pain body of humanity, which goes back to the very origin of the human ego. But the child may also already have taken on pain from his or her parents. Parents, pain bodies. And so the parents may see in the child a reflection of what is also in them. Highly sensitive children are particularly affected by their parents' pain bodies. Having to witness their parents' insane drama causes almost unbearable emotional pain. And so it is often these sensitive children who grow into adults with heavy pain bodies. Children are not fooled by parents who try to hide their pain bodies from them, who say to each other, we mustn't fight in front of the children. This usually means while the parents make polite conversation, the home is pervaded with negative energy. Suppressed pain bodies are extremely toxic. I'll say this again. Suppressed pain energies are toxic as fuck. I know I have suppressed energy. We all do. And that suppression doesn't go away just because you don't recognize it or honor it. It's there. It is emanating all over the place. And it is spilling into your relationships. Even more so than openly active ones. And that psychic toxicity is absorbed by the children and contributes to the development of their own pain body. Some children learn subliminally about ego and pain body simply by living with their unconscious parents. A woman whose parents both had strong egos and heavy pain bodies told me that often when her parents were shouting and screaming at each other, she would look at them, and although she loved them, she would say to herself, these people are nuts. How did I ever end up here? There was already an awareness in her of the insanity of living in such a way. The awareness helped reduce the amount of pain she absorbed from her parents. Parents often wonder how to deal with their child's pain body. The primary question is, of course, are they dealing with their own? Do they recognize it within themselves? Are they able to stay present enough when it becomes activated so that they can be aware of the emotion on the feeling level before it gets a chance to turn into thinking and thus into an unhappy person? While the child is having a pain body attack, there isn't much you can do except to stay present so that you are not drawn into an emotional reaction. The child's pain body will only feed on it. Pain bodies can be extremely dramatic. Don't buy into the drama. Don't take it too seriously. If the pain body was triggered by thwarting wanting, don't give in now to its demands. Otherwise, the child will learn the more unhappy I become, the more likely I am to get what I want. Manipulation. This is a recipe for dysfunction in later life. The pain body will be frustrated by your non reaction. They may briefly act up even more before it subsides. Fortunately, pain body episodes in children are usually more short lived than in adults. A little while after it was subsided, or perhaps the next day, you can talk to the child about what happened, but don't tell the child about the pain body. Ask questions instead. For example, what was it that came over you yesterday when you wouldn't stop screaming? Do you remember? What did it feel like? Was it a good feeling? That thing that came over you, does it have a name? No. If it had a name, what would it be called? If you could see it, what would it look like? Can you paint a picture of what it would look like? What happened to it when it went away? Did it go to sleep? Do you think it may come back? Those are just a few suggested questions. All these questions are designed to awaken the witnessing faculty in the child, which is presence. They will help the child to disidentify from the pain body. You may also want to talk to the child about your own pain body using the child's terminology. The next time the child gets taken over by the pain body, you can say, "It's come back, hasn't it?" Use whatever words the child used when you talked about it. Direct the child's attention to what it feels like. Let your attitude be one of interest or curiosity rather than one of criticism or condemnation. It is unlikely that this will stop the pain body in its tracks, and it may appear that the child will not even be hearing you, yet some awareness will remain in the background of the child's consciousness, even while the pain body is active. After a few times, the awareness will have grown stronger and the pain body will have weakened. The child is growing in presence. One day you may find that the child is the one to point out to you that your own pain body has taken control of you. Unhappiness. Not all unhappiness is of the pain body. Some of it is new unhappiness, created whenever you are out of alignment with the present moment, when the now is denied in one way or another. When you recognize that the present moment is always already the case and therefore inevitable, you can bring an uncompromising inner yes to it. And so not only create no further unhappiness, but with inner resistance gone, find yourself empowered by life itself. The pain body's unhappiness is always clearly out of proportion to the appropriate cause. In other words, it is an overreaction. This is how it is recognized, although not usually by the by the sufferer, the person possessed. Someone with a heavy pain body easily finds reasons for being upset, angry, hurt, sad, or fearful. Relatively insignificant things that someone else would shrug off with a smile or not even notice become the apparent cause of intense unhappiness. They are, of course, not the true case, but only act as a trigger. They bring back to life the old accumulated emotion. The emotion then moves into the head and amplifies and energizes the egoic mind structures. Pain body and ego are close relatives. They need each other. The triggering event or situation is then interpreted and reacted to through the screen of a heavily emotional ego. This is to say, its significance becomes completely distorted. You look at the present through the eyes of the emotional past within you. In other words, what you see and experience is not in the event or situation, but in you. Or in some cases, it may be there in the event or situation, but you amplify it through your reaction. This reaction, this amplification, is what the pain body wants and needs, what it feeds on. For someone possessed by a heavy pain body, it is often impossible to step outside his or her distorted interpretation of the heavily emotional story. The more negative emotion there is in a story, the heavier and more impenetrable it becomes. And so the story is not recognized as such, but is taken to be reality. When you are completely trapped in the movement of thought and the accompanying emotion, stepping outside is not possible because you don't even know that there is an outside. You are trapped in your own movie or dream, trapped in your own hell. To you, it is reality, and no other reality is possible. And as far as you are concerned, your reaction, how you respond, the things that you're doing, is the only thing to do. It's the only way. Because technically it is. Breaking identification with the pain body. Let's see if this is what I just experienced with my I love you. A person with a strong, active pain body has a particular energy emanation that other people perceive as extremely unpleasant. When you meet such a person, some people will immediately want to remove themselves or reduce interaction with him or her to a minimum. They feel repulsed by the person's energy field. Others will feel a wave of aggression towards this person, and they will be rude or attack him or her verbally, and in some cases, even physically. This means there is something within them that resonates with the other person's pain body. What they react to so strongly is also in them. It is their own pain body. Not surprisingly, people with heavy and frequently active pain bodies often find themselves in conflict situations. Sometimes, of course, they actively provoke them, but at other times, they might not actually do anything. The negativity they emanate is enough to attract hostility and generate conflict. It requires a high degree of presence to avoid reacting when confronted by someone with such an active pain body. If you are able to stay present, it sometimes happens that your presence enables the other person to disidentify from his or her own pain body and thus experience the miracle of a sudden awakening. Although the awakening may be short lived, the awakening process will have become initiated. One of the first such awakenings that I witnessed happened many years ago. My doorbell rang close to 11 o'clock at night. My neighbor, Ethel's anxiety-laden voice came through the intercom. We need to talk. This is very important. Please let me in. Ethel was middle-aged, intelligent, and highly educated. She was also a strange ego and a heavy pain body. She escaped from Nazi Germany when she was an adolescent, and many of her family members perished in the concentration camps. Ethel sat down on my sofa, agitated, her hands trembling. She took letters and documents out of the file she carried with her and spread them out all over the sofa and floor. At once, I had the strange sensation as if a dimmer switch had turned the inside of my entire body to maximum power. There was nothing to do other than remain open, alert, intensely present with every cell of the body. I looked at her with no thought and no judgment and listened in stillness without any mental commentary. A torrent of words came out of her mouth. They sent me another disturbing letter today. They are conducting a vendetta against me. You must help. We need to fight them together. Their crooked lawyers will stop at nothing. I will lose my home. They are threatening me with depossession. It transpired that she refused to pay the service charge because the property managers had failed to carry out some repairs. They, in turn, threatened to take her to court. She talked for 10 minutes or so. I sat, looked, and listened. Suddenly, she stopped talking, looked at the papers all around her as if she had just awoken from a dream. She became calm and gentle. Her entire energy field changed. Then she looked at me and said, "This isn't important at all, is it?" "No, it isn't," I said. She sat quietly for a couple more minutes, then picked up papers and left. The next morning, she stopped me in the street, looking at me somewhat suspiciously. "What did you do to me?" "Last night was the first night in years that I've slept well. In fact, I slept like a baby." She believed I had done something to her, but I had done nothing. Instead of asking what I had done to her, perhaps she should have asked what I had not done. I had not reacted, not confirmed the reality of her story, not fed her mind with more thought and her pain body with more emotion. I had allowed her to experience whatever she was experiencing at that moment. And the power of allowing lies to non interference, non doing, being present. Wait, I'm sorry, let me reread. That didn't sound right. I had not reacted, not confirmed the reality of her story, not fed her mind with more thought and her pain body with more emotion. I had allowed her to experience whatever she was experiencing at that moment. And the power of allowing lies in non interference, non doing. Being present is always infinitely more powerful than anything one could say or do, although sometimes being present can give rise to words or actions. What happened to her was not yet a permanent shift, but a glimpse of what is possible, a glimpse of what was already within her. In Zen, with such a glimpse is called Satori. Satori is a moment of presence, a brief stepping out of the voice in your head. The thought processes and their reflection in the body is emotion. It is the arising of inner spaciousness where before there was the clutter of thought and the turmoil of emotion. The thinking mind cannot understand presence and so will often misinterpret it. It will say that you are uncaring, distant, have no compassion, and are not relating. The truth is, you are relating, but at a level deeper than thought and emotion. In fact, at that level, there is a true coming together, a true joining that goes far beyond relating. In the stillness of presence, you can sense the formless essence in yourself and in the other as one. Knowing the oneness of yourself and the other is true love, true care, true compassion. Triggers. Some pain bodies react only one particular kind of trigger or situation, which is usually one that resonates with a certain kind of emotional pain suffered in the past. For example, if a child grows up with parents for whom financial issues are the source of frequent drama and conflict, he or she may absorb the parents' fear around money and develop a pain body that is triggered whenever financial issues are involved. The child, as adult, gets upset or angry even over insignificant amounts of money. Behind the upset or anger lies issues of survival and intense fear. I have been spiritual, that is to say, relatively conscious, people who started to shout, blame, and make accusations the moment they picked up the phone to talk to their stockbroker or realtor. Just as there is a health warning on every package of cigarettes, perhaps there should be similar warnings on every banknote and bank statement. Money can activate the pain body and cause complete unconsciousness. I know I experienced this with a family member. Literally, literally. Money is not evil, but it is the root of not just evil, unconscious pain for some people. Someone who in childhood was neglected or abandoned by one or both parents will likely develop a pain body that becomes triggered in any situation that resonates even remotely with their primordial pain of abandonment. A friend arriving a few minutes late to pick them up at the airport or a spouse coming home late can trigger a major pain body attack. If their partner or spouse leaves them or dies, the emotional pain they experience goes far beyond the pain that is natural in such a situation. It may be intense anguish, long lasting, incapacitating depression, or obsessive anger. A woman who in childhood was physically abused by her father may find that her pain body becomes easily activated in any close relationship with a man. Alternatively, the emotion that makes up her pain body may draw her to a man whose pain body is similar to that of her father. Her pain body may feel a magnetic pull to someone who it senses will give it more of the same pain. That pain is sometimes misinterpreted as falling in love. I swear I thought I turned these notifications off. Okay, I think I turned them off. I'm sorry. All right, let's get back. A man who had been an unwanted child and was given no love and a minimum of care and attention by his mother developed a heavy, ambivalent pain body that consisted of unfulfilled, intense longing for his mother's love and attention, and at the same time, intense hatred toward her for withholding what he so desperately needed. When he became an adult, almost every woman would trigger his pain body's neediness, a form of emotional pain. And this would manifest as an addictive compulsion to conquer and seduce almost every woman he met, and in this way get the female love and attention that the pain body craved. He became quite an expert on seduction. But as soon as a relationship turned intimate or his advances were rejected, the pain body's anger toward his mother would come up and sabotage the relationship. When you recognize your own pain body as it arises, you will also quickly learn that the most common triggers are what the most common triggers are that activate it, whether it be situations or certain things other people do or say. When those triggers occur, you will immediately see them for what they are and enter a heightened state of alertness. Within a second or two, you will also notice the emotional reaction that is the arising pain body. But in that state of alert presence, you won't identify with it, which means the pain body cannot take you over and become the voice in your head. If you are with your partner at the time, you may tell him or her, what you just said or did triggered my pain body. Have an agreement with your partner that whenever either of you says or does something that triggers the other person's pain body, you will immediately mention it. In this way, the pain body can no longer renew itself through drama in the relationship. And instead of pulling you into unconsciousness, will help you become fully present. Every time you are present when the pain body arises, some of the pain body's negative emotional energy will burn up. As it were, you become transmuted into presence. The rest of the pain body will quickly withdraw and wait for a better opportunity to arise again. That is to say, when you are less conscious. A better opportunity for the pain body to arise may come whenever you lose presence, perhaps after you have had a few drinks, or while watching a violent film. The tiniest negative emotion, such as being irritated or anxious, can also serve as a doorway through which the pain body can return. That is why it is so important to be mindful of your emotional capacity. I told my friend, this is new, communicating like this and understanding my ability and emotional capacity to be in your presence. It is like once I am out of his presence, I have to detox from his energy. Our energy together is so strong. It is so overpowering that it takes me it took me 5 days to detox and to be able to fully communicate what my experience was with him and to share it. That's the hard part. Like unpacking 5 days of what just happened. Like what am I going through emotionally? Unpacking it, sharing it finally after 5 days, and to just be like, okay, I can be back in my presence. But for 5 days, I was anxious. I had a lot of emotions. I was in my head overthinking a lot of stuff instead of just being able, and I couldn't verbalize it. Like I had to do the work on myself in 5 days. Like, what is happening right now? When I feel like this, when I have this energy, this is when I shut down and I, as he would say, run. That is what I've been doing my whole life. And so it took me 5 days to say, okay, you're not allowed to keep doing what you've been doing. You got to unpack it, figure it out, and communicate it. And that requires vulnerability. And that's hard. It's hard to do the work and then to share the work that you had to do. It's hard. The pain body needs your unconsciousness. It needed me to not focus in 5 days on what I experienced. My pain body would be much more comfortable if I immediately would have sat with I didn't say anything because I didn't say I love you. I didn't say that. I didn't say anything. Tuck it away, hide it, and just stop dealing with him again. My pain body would have felt so much better. It cannot tolerate the light of presence, truth, honesty. The pain body as an awakener. At first sight, it may seem that the pain body is the greatest obstacle to the arising of a new consciousness in humanity. It occupies your mind, controls and distorts your thinking, disrupts your relationships, and feels like a dark cloud that occupies your entire energy field. It tends to make you unconscious, spiritually speaking, which means totally identified with mind and emotion. It makes you reactive, makes you say and do things that are designed to increase the unhappiness within yourself and the world. As unhappiness increases, however, it also causes increasing disruption in your life. Perhaps the body can't take the stress anymore and develops an illness or some dysfunction. Perhaps you become involved in an accident, some huge conflict situation or drama that was caused by the pain body's desire for something bad to happen. Or you become the perpetuator of physical violence. Or it all becomes too much and you cannot live with your unhappy self anymore. The pain body, of course, is part of that false self. Whenever you get taken over by the pain body, whenever you don't recognize it for what it is, it becomes part of your ego. Whatever you identify with turns into ego. The pain body is one of the most powerful things the ego can identify with. Just as the pain body needs the ego to renew itself through it, the unholy alliance, however, eventually breaks down in those cases where the pain body is so heavy that the egoic mind structures, instead of being strengthened by it, are becoming eroded by the continuous onslaught of the pain body's energy charge. In the same way that an electronic device can be empowered by an electric current, but also destroyed by it if the voltage is too high, People with strong pain bodies often reach a point where they feel their life is becoming unbearable, where they can't take any more pain, any more trauma. One person expressed this by saying plainly and simply that she was fed up with being unhappy. Some people may feel, as I did, that they cannot live with themselves anymore. Inner peace then becomes their first priority. Their acute emotional pain forces them to disidentify from the content of their minds and the mental emotional structures that give birth to and perpetuate the unhappy me. They then know that neither their unhappy story nor the emotion they feel is who they are. They realize they are the knowing, not the known. Rather than pulling them into unconsciousness, the pain body becomes their awakener, the decisive factor that forces them into a state of presence. However, due to the unprecedented influx of unconsciousness we are witnessing on the planet now, how many people no longer need to go through the depth of accurate suffering to be able to disidentify from the pain body? Whenever they notice they have slipped back into a dysfunctional state, that just happened to me, they are able to choose to step out of identification with thinking and emotion. Literally, I love you. What you say? Nothing. Nothing. I didn't say nothing. And enter the state of presence. I got home and was like, you know what? I said what I said. I became present again. I'm not a liar. I don't lie. I do well-placed truths, but I don't lie. They relinquish resistance, become still and alert, one with what is, within and without. The next step in human evolution is not inevitable, but for the first time in the history of our planet, it can be a conscious choice. Who is making that choice? You are. And who are you? Consciousness that has become conscious of itself. That is all we are. We are all a version of consciousness. We are all a version of good, of bad, of willfulness. Like we are all of those things. There is nothing happening on our planet that is not meant to happen. When we point fingers at people's this, you are ungodly, you are unconscious, you are this, that. You got these three fingers pointing right back at you. Like, boo, you too. Your job, your individual job, is while you are in this little avatar that you were born into, the consciousness that exists here, your job is to awaken it. Some of us are able to do it. Not all of us are able to tap into it. And that is what the life cycle and generational trauma becomes. The goal is to elevate consciousness. That is literally our goal, our mission in this human beingness that we've experienced. And we're just experiencing it together now. Last section, breaking free of the pain body. A question people frequently ask is, how long does it take to become free of the pain body? I don't think it ever happens because we move in between unconsciousness. I noticed it, get it together. Unconsciousness just happened. I noticed it. That means that pain body is there. Get your shit together. Let's see what Eckhart says. The answer is, of course, that it depends both on the density of an individual's pain body as well as the degree of intensity of that individual's arising presence. But it is not the pain body, but identification with it that causes the suffering that you inflict on yourself and others. It is not the pain body, but that's right. It is not the pain body, but identification with the pain body that forces you to relive the past again and again and keeps you in a state of unconsciousness. My pain body was trying to keep me stuck in my 20-year-old version of me. I told this man I loved him 20 years ago. And then I put my boots on and I ran away. Fast forward. We're here again. I still love you. It ain't going nowhere. What you say? Nothing. Not this time. I said what I said. I've grown up. I've matured. 20 years later, I'm not going to be that version of myself that I was before. I'm going to be this new version that I've grown into, a much more mature version of me, a much more conscious version of me. I'm going to say the difficult things. I'm going to do the difficult work on myself, because whether or not it's meant for us to be together, I can't get to the next relationship until I get past this one, obviously, which is why I'm back here with you. So a more important question to ask would be this: how long does it take to become free of identification with the pain body? 20-some years now. And the answer to that question is it takes no time at all. When the pain body is activated, know that what you are feeling is the pain body in you. This knowing is all that is needed to break your identification with it. And when identification with it ceases, the transmutation begins. The knowing prevents the old emotion from rising up into your head and taking over not only the internal dialogue, but also your actions as well as interactions with other people. This means the pain body cannot use you anymore and renew itself through you. The old emotion may then still live in you for a while and come up periodically. It may also still occasionally trick you into identifying with it again and thus obscure the knowing, but not for long. Not projecting the old emotion into situations means facing it directly within yourself. It may not be pleasant. It is not. But it won't kill you. It did not. Your presence is more capable of containing it. The emotion is not who you are. When you feel the pain body, don't fall into the error of thinking there is something wrong with you. Making yourself into a problem. The ego loves that. The knowing needs to be followed by accepting. Anything else will obscure it again. Accepting means you allow yourself to feel whatever it is you are feeling at that moment. It is part of the isness of the now. You can't argue with what is. You can't. Well, you can, but if you do, you suffer. Through allowing, through being, you become what you are. Vast, spacious. You become whole. You are not a fragment anymore, which is how the ego perceives itself. Your true nature emerges, which is one with the nature of God. Jesus points to this when he says, "Be ye whole, even as your Father in heaven is whole." The New Testament's "be ye perfect" is a mistranslation of the original Greek word, which means whole. This is to say, you don't need to become whole, but be what you already are, with or without the pain body. Thank you for being here. I love you. God willing, I'll see you soon. I can't tell you when, but it will be hopefully before next weekend. I love you guys. Take care. And please like, subscribe, and share. And I'll see you soon. Mwah. Bye.